No one expects the worst to happen on an ordinary Tuesday. Ethan was rinsing dishes when he heard the glass fall. He turned and saw Lily on the kitchen floor, pale and still. The world seemed to stop. Within minutes, sirens filled the air outside. Their Ohio home. At the hospital, bright lights and serious faces surrounded him. Doctors spoke carefully. Complications, sudden condition, long recovery ahead. She would be okay, they believed, but not soon. The word months echoed in his head. Ethan stayed at the hospital day and night. He slept in a chair beside Lily's bed, waking every time she shifted. Her hand felt smaller in his. She tried to smile for him, but she was tired. The woman who once moved quickly through life now struggled just to sit up. Seeing her that way broke something inside him. He tried to handle everything alone. Calls from insurance, updates for friends, work emails stacking up, laundry waiting at home, the fridge nearly empty. He drove back and forth between the hospital and the house, running on coffee and worry. Then Marianne arrived. She walked into the hospital room with calm steps and soft eyes. She carried a container of soup and a quiet confidence. Ethan hadn't seen much of her since his father passed away 3 years earlier. She had always been polite but reserved, never fully stepping into a motherly role. Now she looked steady, almost strong enough for both of them. "You look exhausted," she told him gently. "Let me help." At first, Ethan resisted. "I've got it," he said. He didn't want to feel weak. He didn't want anyone else stepping into his marriage. His responsibility. But Marianne didn't argue. She simply began doing small things. She refilled Lily's water. She asked the nurse careful questions. She made a list of medications and visiting hours. She organized papers that had been scattered across the side table. By the end of the week, she was driving Ethan home to shower and rest. She insisted he sleep in his own bed for a few hours while she sat beside Lily. "It doesn't make you less devoted," she said quietly. "It keeps you strong." Eventually, Ethan agreed to let her stay in their guest room for a short time. It felt temporary, practical, necessary. At home, Marianne moved with purpose. She cleaned the kitchen until it shined. She washed clothes without asking which pile was which. She stocked the fridge with healthy meals. She even placed fresh flowers in the living room, saying the house needed life in it. Ethan noticed how quickly the chaos faded. Bills were paid on time. Phone calls were returned. Appointments were written neatly on a calendar by the fridge. When he came home late from the hospital, dinner was warm on the stove. "You don't have to thank me," she would say. "Family takes care of each other." The word family landed differently now. Weeks passed. Lily improved slowly, but remained in the hospital. Some days she was talkative. Other days she barely opened her eyes. Ethan stayed hopeful, but fear followed him everywhere. At night, he and Marianne sometimes sat in the living room after long hospital visits. The house was quiet except for the hum of the heater. She would ask about his childhood, about his dreams, about how he was really feeling. No one had asked him that in weeks. "How are you holding up?" She said one evening, her voice low. "I don't know," he admitted. "I feel like I'm failing at everything." She shook her head. "You're showing up every day. That matters." Her words felt like a hand steadying him. One night, a heavy storm knocked out the power. The house went dark except for lightning flashing across the windows. Ethan found candles in a drawer. They sat on the couch, the room glowing in soft gold light. The rain hit hard against the glass. The world outside felt distant. Marianne spoke about losing his father, about how grief changes people, about how loneliness can sneak in even when you try to be strong. Ethan listened carefully. He had never heard her speak so openly. For the first time, he saw her not as Dad's wife, but as a woman who had survived her own heartbreak. "You can't carry pain alone forever," she said. "It finds a way to break you." Her eyes met his, steady and understanding. Something shifted in that quiet moment. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was subtle, Connection built from shared worry and late-night conversations, from standing side by side in a crisis. Ethan quickly looked away, unsettled by his own thoughts. "This is my stepmother," he reminded himself. "This is wrong," but nothing wrong had happened. They weren't crossing any lines. They weren't hiding secrets. They were simply two adults supporting each other during a difficult time. Still, Ethan began noticing small details. The way she tucked her hair behind her ear when she concentrated. The calm tone she used with doctors on the phone. The way she placed a gentle hand on his shoulder when he seemed overwhelmed. Touch lasted only a second, yet he felt them long after. At the hospital, Lily remained the center of his world. He read to her from her favorite novels. He updated her about neighbors and friends. He promised her that everything at home was under control. She would smile faintly. "I'm lucky to have you," she whispered one afternoon. The words filled him with both pride and guilt. Back at home, Marianne had rearranged the living room to make space for medical equipment Lily might need later. She chose soft blankets and supportive pillows. She thought ahead, planning for recovery. "You're doing too much," Ethan said once. "I'm doing what needs to be done," she replied calmly. He started relying on her presence more than he realized. Left for groceries, the house felt strangely empty. When she returned, it felt settled again. One evening, after a long and draining hospital visit, Ethan sat at the kitchen table staring at nothing. Marianne poured him tea without asking. She sat across from him. "You're scared," she said softly. "Yes," he answered, his voice barely above a whisper. Felt easier to admit fear to her than to anyone else. She reached across the table and squeezed his hand briefly. "She's fighting. So are you." The contact was simple, supportive, but Ethan felt warmth spread through him that had nothing to do with tea. He pulled his hand back slowly, unsure of himself. The lines were still there, but they were fading. Days turned into weeks. Marianne became part of the rhythm of his life. Morning coffee together, quiet drives to the hospital, late-night talks in the dim kitchen light. Neighbors began assuming she lived there permanently. "You're lucky to have your mom helping," one neighbor said casually. Ethan didn't correct her. That small silence stayed with him. One afternoon, Lily had a setback. Doctors adjusted her treatment, and Ethan felt panic rise again. He stepped into the hallway, breathing hard. Marianne followed. "You can't fall apart," she said firmly, but kindly. "She needs you steady." Her confidence anchored him. He leaned against the wall, closing his eyes for a moment. She stood closer than necessary. When he opened his eyes, he realized how near they were standing. Too near, they both stepped back at the same time. Neither spoke of it. That night, Ethan lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Rain tapped lightly against the window again, reminding him of that candlelit evening. His mind replayed conversations. Glances, touches, he loved Lily. That truth was solid. But he was also human, tired, vulnerable, grateful for comfort wherever he found it. He told himself it was nothing, just stress, just circumstance. Yet deep down, he sensed that emotional lines, once crossed, are difficult to redraw. And while Lily fought to recover in her hospital bed, something quiet and complicated was growing in the space between Ethan and Marianne. Neither of them planned it, neither of them named it, but it was there. It was only the beginning. Lily came home on a bright Monday morning. Ethan stood at the front door as she stepped inside slowly, holding his arm for balance. The house looked clean, organized, almost staged. Fresh flowers sat on the table. The couch had new cushions. The air smelled like lemon and laundry soap. "It looks different," Lily said softly, glancing around. "Just small changes," Ethan replied quickly. Marianne appeared from the kitchen with a warm smile. "Welcome home, Lily. We're so glad you're back." Lily thanked her, sincere but quiet. She was tired. The doctors had warned them that recovery would take time. She would need rest, patience, and support. For the first few days, everything felt careful. Ethan helped Lily walk from room to room. Marianne prepared healthy meals and set medication reminders. They worked like a team. But something beneath the surface had changed. Lily noticed how easily Ethan and Marianne moved around each other in the kitchen. How they shared quick looks. When discussing schedules, how Marianne seemed to know where everything was without asking. One evening, Lily stood at the sink trying to wash a plate. Her hands trembled from weakness. Marianne gently took the plate from her. "Please sit." "You shouldn't strain yourself," Marianne said. Lily forced a small smile and returned to the couch. Ethan saw the flash of frustration in Lily's eyes. He wanted to say something reassuring, but the words didn't come fast enough. As days passed, tension grew in small ways. Lily struggled with simple tasks. She hated feeling dependent. Ethan tried to stay patient, but he was stretched thin between work and caregiving. Marianne continued managing the house smoothly, almost effortlessly. The balance felt off. One afternoon, Lily called Ethan into the bedroom. "Do you feel like a guest in your own house?" she asked quietly. The question caught him off guard. "What do you mean?" "She's done so much," Lily said carefully. "I'm grateful. But it feels like everything runs without me now." Ethan sat beside her. He saw the sadness in her face, the fear of being replaced not just in tasks, but in presence. "That's not true," he said, though his voice lacked full confidence. Downstairs, Marianne folded laundry at the dining table. When Ethan joined her later, the room felt tense but calm. They worked side by side in silence until their hands brushed, reaching for the same shirt. This time, neither pulled away quickly. The contact lasted only a second, but it carried weight. Marianne looked at him, her expression serious. "We need to be careful." He nodded. "I know." The truth sat between them. They had grown close during Lily's illness. They had leaned on each other in ways that felt natural at the time. But now Lily was home, watching, feeling every shift in the room. That night, Ethan lay awake next to Lily. She slept lightly, breathing uneven but peaceful. He stared at the ceiling, replaying every conversation with Marianne. He asked himself hard questions. Was he attracted to her? Or was he just grateful? Was it loneliness or something deeper? The next morning, Lily attempted to cook breakfast. She insisted on making pancakes, something she used to do every Sunday. Ethan offered to help, but she wanted to prove she still could. Halfway through, she grew dizzy. Ethan rushed forward to steady her. Marianne quickly turned off the stove. "I've got it," Marianne said firmly. Lily stepped back, her face pale but composed. "Said I could handle it." Silence filled the kitchen. After breakfast, Lily retreated upstairs. Ethan followed her. "You don't trust me anymore?" she said without looking at him. "That's not fair," he replied softly. "Then why does it feel like she's your partner now?" The words hit him hard. He wanted to deny it completely. He wanted to say she was imagining things. But deep down, he knew there was a truth he hadn't faced. He hadn't crossed a physical line, but emotionally, he had drifted. Later that afternoon, Ethan found Marianne in the backyard trimming small branches. The air was cool, the sky gray. "We can't ignore this," she said before he spoke. He nodded. "I never meant for it to become complicated." "Neither did I," she replied. "But it did." They stood facing each other, not too close, not too far. The space between them felt heavy with unspoken feelings. "It's easy to connect during a crisis," she continued. "You were scared. I was lonely. We understood each other." "That doesn't make it right," Ethan said quietly. "No," she agreed. "It doesn't." For a moment, neither moved. The possibility of crossing the final line hung in the air. It would have been easy. One step closer. One wrong decision. But Marianne stepped back instead. "You love your wife. she said. Don't confuse comfort with love. That sentence cleared his mind more than anything else had. That evening, Ethan sat beside Lily on the couch. He turned off the television and took her hand. I need to tell you something, he began. Her eyes filled with worry. I never cheated on you, he said firmly, but I let myself depend on someone else emotionally. I was overwhelmed. I didn't set strong boundaries. Lily listened without interrupting. Tears formed slowly, not from anger, but from hurt. Did you fall for her? She asked. He paused, choosing honesty over comfort. I felt close to her, but I love you. And I want to fix this. The room felt fragile. Trust doesn't break loudly. Sometimes it cracks quietly. The next morning, Ethan spoke to Marianne at the kitchen table. You helped us survive the hardest months of our lives, he said. But Lily and I need space. We need to rebuild without confusion. Marianne's eyes softened. I understand. There was sadness there, but also acceptance. I never wanted to take her place, she added. I know, he replied. She packed her suitcase by noon. Lily came downstairs slowly as Marianne rolled it toward the door. Thank you for everything, Lily said sincerely. Marianne nodded. You're stronger than you think. At the door, she turned to Ethan. There were no dramatic words, no emotional speeches. It's just a quiet look of understanding. Then she left. The house felt different immediately. Quieter, unsettled, but real. The following weeks were not easy. Lily and Ethan had long conversations. Some ended in tears. Others ended in silence. They talked about fear, loneliness, and the pressure of illness. Ethan listened more than he spoke. He helped Lily redecorate the living room together this time. They chose new curtains as a team. They moved furniture side by side. Each small decision became part of rebuilding trust. Recovery wasn't just physical anymore. It was emotional. Lily grew stronger day by day. She walked farther without assistance. She laughed more often. She began cooking small meals again, even if Ethan stood nearby just in case. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Lily leaned her head on his shoulder. Are we going to be okay? She asked quietly. Yes, he said, and this time he meant it without hesitation. He had learned something painful but important. Infidelity doesn't always begin with intention. It begins with small choices. With seeking comfort in the wrong place. With allowing emotional space to fill too easily. He had stepped close to a line he never meant to approach, but he stepped back. Sometimes stepping back is what saves everything. Months later, the house felt balanced again. Not perfect, not untouched by what happened, but honest. Ethan understood now that love requires active protection, not just during peaceful times, but especially during storms. He chose Lily not just once at the altar years ago, but again in the quiet moments when temptation and confusion could have pulled him away. And that choice made all the difference.